It is with great pleasure to introduce Stelios Koupetoris, a director, writer, composer, and sound designer from Greece. Stelios has found much success as a sound designer on numerous award-winning television and film productions, awards that include the Emmys, Golden Globes, and BAFTA. As a composer, he has also been nominated 3 times at the Hollywood Music in Media Awards and also nominated at the International Sound and Music Film Festival of Croatia and at the Marseille International Festival of Music and Cinema. And the list goes on and on. In 2019, Stelios completed his first film titled W, which is screened in over 80 festivals around the world, winning 21 awards and receiving 12 nominations. W is a poignant film that speaks about the devastation of war and is part of a 3-film trilogy, which brings me to what we'll be discussing today. His new film is called P, and it's the second film in his trilogy. Welcome, Stelios. It's so great to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Link. Thank you so much for your kind words and and all the introduction. I'm very pleased and honored to be at the Spark Animation Festival, and it's a great pleasure to have this meeting and discussion with you. And also, I would like to thank the rest of my team that worked on this film. It's been some years since I prepared it, and we managed to finish it this year. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it's always a challenge to get a film in the can and done. And so kudos to everybody on your team. So before we talk about the film, Stelios, I'm wondering, you have a track record of making films that tries to elicit some changes in society, with W essentially being an anti-war film, and now with P. Why is that? What has happened in your life that has made you want to put your energies into making films that matter?
That's a very nice question. Thank you. It's also personal, but most of all, it's social. I believe some issues like war or misinformation and propaganda, or on the generic as a generic term, are global. And I like speaking about matters that are as universal as possible, and that touches most of the people, because it's also matters that need immediate change. We can't afford having wars on 2024, having wars, having people killed for profit or for whatever reason. There's never a good reason. There's not even a close enough reason to having so many people killed in our neighborhood, or even if it's far from home. Earth is our home, um, so war has to stop, and societies must free themselves from any kind of you know um, sorry, I'm trying to find the word in English. Any kind of oppression they might have. So the the themes I choose is mostly on this matter. Universal issues that need immediate change, that we can't afford to live with anymore.
It makes total sense to me. It's like people are dying, that should stop. And people are being killed, and people are killing them. So it just logically, it makes sense. Why would we want to do that? Why is that ever an answer to any sort of conflicts we have in the world? Okay, so my first question about your film is, what does P stand for?
It's part of a trilogy concept. The first film was W, and it's about war. The second film is about misinformation and propaganda. So P stands for propaganda. And I will also take the chance here to include one interpretation that the film critic did, which I really loved. Although I try to avoid having it. It's the circle, and the eternal circle of power that has no end. So it's about the PI. Initially, I was trying to avoid naming it like this. I was very careful with the name, because P everyone reminded of the well-known film by Aronofsky, the PI, and
Yeah.
a lot of people were confusing it with this. But at the end, I accepted this very nice interpretation by this film critic, which said that it's P because it's the eternal circulation of power and. Which is never ending. So it was very well welcomed, and there was no reason trying to avoid such an interpretation. So there will be no resemblance. So
Like I have to say, I felt about the circularness as well, which I actually have a question about that later down in the interview about the vicious circle that is in your film that you're trying to expose. I feel, yeah, isn't it kind of convenient that propaganda starts with the word P too, right? So that really helped different layers for your film. Okay, so um, I want to know is maybe whenever we're making films, it's always very very difficult to finish it. Can you just maybe give us one of your biggest challenges in getting this film made?
yes, definitely. There were a lot. First and Yeah. First and foremost, it's the budget, and it's always the budget. And in Greece, we have very limited, budget resources, also institutional speaking, and also as the amount of money that we get from these institutions. We mainly have two public institutions, so that was the main issue and the main difficulty which we were challenged with. Now the other one is that I'm not an animator, and yes, I have no idea about animation apart from the fact that I have worked as a sound designer in animated films. So I couldn't contribute as an animator, or neither as a designer or something. So I couldn't help with that, and I needed a team behind that to support the film. It's a very common practice that usually with animated shorts, especially, the director is an animator, so there is a very good starting point to do a film. Um, so
So brave.
thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, hopefully, I had very good, animators, and generally, I was surrounded with a very good team, which really liked the film, and we managed to finish it because sadly, there are a lot of films that stop,
Yeah.
they never get finished. So I was very lucky with this. Um, yeah, so that were the main two things, and on top of that, since I wasn't an animator and the budget was very limited, I had to be very precise on the things that was asking from the team. You know, it may be more a long process comparing to live action films that you
Mm.
so there is a preparation, there is a pre-production process that goes, on a flat, on a line like this, and so you get the shooting, and then all of a sudden you have the footage, and you
Mm.
go to post-production. With the animation, it's a very long process. You get it by step, frame by frame. So my main concern was not to do any kind of mistakes or any, not to miss something that I will have to redo later on, because the team would have to redo it, and it's a very slow process and a very painful process to do so. So I had to
Wow.
be very cautious.
What made you decide that you wanted to do this in animation instead of live action? Because W, the first uh, film in this trilogy, is live action. So why did you choose animation?
Well, that's a very good question. Well, I'll be completely honest with you because I come from a live action world, and I've worked more with on this on this section, which means I also have more friends to help on this on live action films. But due to the story. and the storyline and the characters, it was almost it was nearly impossible for me to translate it to a live action film, this kind of script, because the main actors are cats and mice. And I'll be honest, like I said before, I tried to do it. I really tried to do it, but it was very hard for me to, trying to translate that to a live action film. So I decided to go to go with animation.
That's absolutely fabulous. That's absolutely fabulous. I mean, the film is so subtly clever. That's what I really appreciated, and yet the message is very clear of what you're trying to say, and at least how I've interpreted it. So, you mentioned just now about the characters having to be that you chose a cat and a mouse. As your main characters, and that it was actually very deliberate. Can you speak a little bit about that, please?
Yes, yes, of course. Well, the characters in this film are the most important, some of the most important factors, symbolic wise, because it's. First of all, I would like to say that it's the whole story, the whole storyline is developing within a city that is inhabited by cats and mice. Cats and mice are enemies. Um, and the cats are the bosses, are the highest in the hierarchy, and the mice are the oppressed and the lesser on the hierarchy of the city, of the world, if I could expand it. So on this base, cats and mice are clearly symbolic. They are anthropomorphic. I mean, they are cats, but they're walking on their feet, 2 feet, 2 feet, and they behave like humans. They are. We don't have I don't have dialogue inside the film, which was very important also for me not to add dialogue and to do a silent and non-dialogue film. So on this base, cats and mice are symbolic. So I took two natural enemies, at least to our eyes, natural enemies, which is kind of global as far as concerning Western societies. It's always the cats and mice which are enemies, and we have seen that a lot in animation as well.
Like Tom
So
and Jerry, things like that,
yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Tom and
yeah,
Jerry is very classic. And so I took these two opposing characters, and I used these contradictions to speak about the position of which each one of them into that society that I had in my mind.
yeah.
So, for example, the cats are, the domestic. The mice are the parasitic. The cats are the clean ones, and the mice are, the dirty ones. Symbolic speaking, of course. It's never like this, but I wanted to play with a little bit with the social perception. Um, so in that story, in that world, mice are uh, interpreted as such by the cats that wanted to impose themselves as cats to those that wanted to impose on top of them as mice. It's a matter of authority.
It's like a power difference between those, like the cat is the ones are the ultimate power. I guess that they would be considered the upper echelons of society in your film, and the mice, are the ones who are the oppressed, the ones that have no power within this society, this world that you've built.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, that's the thing I wanted to talk about.
And
Yeah,
how does that
so
translate into our world? Because I think that you were trying to parallel the world that you created in your film to actually what's going on in our society today. Can you speak a little bit about that?
yes, yes, of course, of course. Well, I try to speak about authority and power and discrimination in different, and make it as generic as possible, because it's a bit. As I was progressing in the film and the storyline and the symbolism and where to put that, how to speak about all this in the film. I tried to realize that it was also pointless speaking very specific about about power, because I didn't want to overanalyze. I didn't want to speak about, for example, specific examples. So you can I try to do it in a way that you can adapt it to any kind of any kind of oppressed people and any kind of powerful people or group of people within a society.
Yes, but I think in your film you do actually you do make some specifics because there's the casting wall, I call it, the cat and mouse casting wall, and there were very specific positionings that you've placed in terms of what the cat represents and what the mouse represents. So I'm thinking perhaps you could speak a little bit about that casting wall and why you chose the images that you did uh, in your film.
Yes, yes, of course, of course. Because at the same time, I didn't want to make it generic enough to lose, to lose the meaning of the whole film. So yes, there is I really love the way the word you use, the casting wall, which is great. I will use that if I can lend,
No
if
problem.
I may,
Of course.
if I may. That's an amazing way to put it. So yeah, it's indeed, there are displays on the wall which are different couples of cats and mice. So on every display, we see a couple like this, which are dressed differently. So, for example, I have a cat cowboy and a mouse indigenous. So I saw very, I saw, I am trying to show some specifics, and then generally I'm showing a wall full of displays, which you have to pause the film to see what's clearly going on the rest of the wall. And that was the point that I did. I thought that I wanted to show something, but at the same time, I didn't want to focus so much on the specific, because it's more generic than that. These are just some examples. So yes, there is a police officer, a cat, and an outlaw mouse. There is a cowboy cat and an indigenous mice. There is a soldier cat and a soldier or a member of a resistance somewhere mice. So these are initially, figures that the entertainment industry has used to impose on society who's the good guy and who's the bad guy on its storyline, or the news, or everything that headlines, because generally the film is talking about power, but is also mostly talking about propaganda as a tool of social engineering, if I
Mhm.
may say that, or as a tool of um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely, you can say that. Absolutely. I understand. I mean, it makes me think of actually Noam Chomsky. Like when I was watching this, I started thinking about the theory behind what you're trying to say. And the first person that comes to mind is Noam Chomsky's manufacturing consent, where, basically he's saying mass media is instilling propaganda, seeping it in our lives in its subtle ways through mass media. And usually, whenever that happens, they always feel like they have to create some form of enemy. And I feel that that is what you are trying to make a point, is that the propaganda that is out there, that films are making, are doing, basically needs to have a good guy and a evil person, or something or other. I mean, does that sound right to you?
Yes, yes, exactly. That's exactly the point. Because the cats and mice are, polarized symbolic elements, which is, the exact opposite. The the good, which ends up in the good and bad, because they need to polarize societies. By meaning they, I mean all the institutions or the policies that want to impose propaganda and impose this kind of information onto society. So these are polarized elements, symbolic elements. It's a semiotic elements that which comes also from religion, the absolute good with the absolute bad. And this is where the entertainment industry fails. It doesn't, they
They're
don't do
part of the
much.
tool.
Yeah, exactly.
It
Yeah.
seems like they're being used as a tool. They are, I mean, in a lot of instances, for sure, right? Not your film, though.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I wanted to mention, because I keep saying how clever your film is, and I truly, truly believe it's so clever. I've watched it a few times because I knew the first watch that I was just trying to get the theme of the film, and then I knew that there were things going on in the background as well. But as I'm sitting here watching the film, I say, okay, well, I'll get to that. And then I had to, after I finished the film, I thought this is absolutely great. But I know I missed stuff. So I watched it again, and then I thought, okay, there are all these movie posters that are placed in the film every now and then. And I thought you were actually putting another level of film language there to support your film about propaganda. Um, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, of course. Well, there are different posters and helping the story and the meaning of the story coming to life. Some of them are just references to my personal life. Look, but it's okay. Some
Excellent.
others, yeah. So, for example, I have the poster of my first film, which is. I like to put it there. Apart from talking about myself, I wanted to show another anti-war film, but there are also
I
posters
love
like
it. It's an Easter egg. Sorry, I love it. It's an Easter egg. Okay, go on. Sorry, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
no, please, feel free to do
No,
so.
go ahead.
Uh, yeah, but generally, there is a very important story-wise poster inside the cinema, which showing that some drawings, some hand-written drawings of the whole machine inside the cinema, how the machine of how this kind of machine of deception works. So it looks like some old Da Vinci style handwriting, hand drawing of the machine over there. So this is a way that I wanted to say that there are some forces behind this. This machine, and if you notice, I'm sure you did, you know so well the film. Yeah, I'm very impressed.
I
Yeah.
really liked it.
And you notice, the size of the room is widely bigger than the rest of the sizes of the rooms inside the story. The size of the room where the machine of deception is working. So you
Which
will
is
see.
the machine of deception is a film projector, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's a machine. It looks like a very bad assembled machine, which is a deception where the cats and mice are running in spinning wheels, and the spinning wheels, which are like hamster wheels.
Yeah.
There is an audience. I'm just explaining this for the rest of the people that will are watching this video. So there is a cinema where it's packed with cats, and they're laughing by watching a film, and the whole film is one cat chasing a mouse and the two are standing in two different wheels. So the cat is running in a hamster wheel, and the mouse is running on another hamster wheel. But this is a very close up shot, which is actually at the back of the cinema. These two hamster wheels are not hamster wheels, are the projection wheels, are the wheels of a projector that are running inside there, the cat and mice. And the camera is
Very good.
very, yeah, is a close up on the camera, and the rest, the rest of the machine is not viewable but by the audience.
I think a main part about that scene is that it's the cat chasing the mouse. And it's sort of like, I mean, how I see it, right, is that it's basically a vicious circle of spewing out the same propaganda that the cat is chasing the mouse and the cat is the dominant figure. Ergo, it's the powerful one. It's the one that is in that position to be able to do this without any consequences. And the audience that you've presented is all full of cats who are just absolutely loving this scene. They said, yes, of course, that scene, that image I see is reflecting my life or the life that I want. And because I, as a cat, is seeing a cat chasing a mouse. And boy, what power, what glee. I love it. So um, I think when you're talking, when you did this, I started thinking about that vicious circle. It's this vicious circle of spewing this type of propaganda that's out. That if you look like the cat, you are somebody that's better than if you look like a mouse. If you were the mouse character, you are basically somebody that is deserves to be at the bottom of any sort of society. Like you're the ones that don't deserve to have a good job or are not capable of getting a good job. You could be demonized as saying that you are a savage, you're uncivilized, all those sorts of stereotyping tropes that are out there in the world. And I think in some ways you were saying it looked like that it was really unstoppable until this mouse happens upon this this lie in some ways, or and so I thought with the mouse's action in your film, what was he trying to do, and what were you with the mouse's action after that? What were you trying? What statement were you trying to make in your film with the mouse's, a big moment?
Yes, thank you for the question. It's a very nice question. So there are two endings, not alternative ones. One ending that it's before the titles, and there is another ending which is the final ending of after the end
Yes.
titles. So what the mouse is trying to do, it simply tries to, it's a very clever mouse, our protagonist, and tries to switch the meaning of the film, and try to show itself as a mouse that is chasing the cat. So it will change the consciousness of society. So that was the initial purpose of the mouse, because exactly as you said, uh, every cat is considered a mouse as as a as a existence of a lower, that they deserve to be where they are, because the cat imposed it to the mouse, this kind of meaning. So the mouse was trying to engineer the opposite. Was trying to use the tool of propaganda, this machine of deception, for its own benefit and the rest of the mice benefit, because he understood how the propaganda tool works. So since he understood it, he tried to control the information that was given to the audience. Uh, so on the one hand, we have an optimistic, element, which is a very small mouse that finally managed to change the film and change the perception of society, and overthrow the power of the cats. Um, but also there is another ending which shows the mouse, which shows the same society with which just in which the power position simply changed. The mice became the bosses, the powerful guys, the authority, and the cats were in the position that the mice used to be. uh, I would like to say that, take advantage of this question and say that this is a kind of ideology statement. It's one statement that what I would like to say with this is that not that we cannot build a better world. I'm not trying to say that on the contrary, I'm showing that just a small mouse can change the world. What I'm trying to saying is that if we use the same power elements that are used, the same power tools that are used by others to control some, a part of society, if we use the same tools to overthrow them, then we will become, the oppressed will become the power, the system themselves. So they will simply switch their positions. So if we want to change something, we have to change the system, not who is on top of that system.
Yeah. I like again, I think we were talking again, it's about that vicious circle. If you use the same methods, the same ideologies, then we're just going to get the same looking the world's going to still look the same, where there will always be someone who's oppressed and someone who has all the power, which there's absolutely an imbalance of power within that sort of framework. And obviously, when that happens, then there's a lot of hatred that gets developed, a lot of violence that probably ensues after that because of the hatred. And I think your film is trying to say, hey, we need to get off this hamster wheel, right? Because we need to have new systems. And I think you said that very, very well.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, I is there an example you can think of where this vicious circle of violence or hatred or oppression, the hierarchy of oppression, um, has happened in our world? Something that was changed, that vicious circle was broken. Can you think of an example?
Well, yes, I do believe there are. There are a lot of historic, examples that this has happened. Um, well, for start, I believe that this kind of power games and the control of information and and the symbolism and the use of propaganda has happened. I have stated some generic examples in the film itself, as you said before. It's for example. The internal the internal colonialism on North America with with the European all the European migration that went to the to where United States are, and their treatment against the indigenous people, or during colonialism, or so there are numerous of
Well,
examples that this is
yeah.
happening. But you
Yeah,
want to.
I think that for me, like one when where this vicious circle has broken and successfully done so was South Africa's apartheid with Nelson Mandela, and how there was a white supremacy government in South Africa, and then apartheid ended, and Nelson Mandela and the ANC had decided that we were not going to be like the white supremacists who oppressed us. We are going to be a different sort of society. We're going to build something different. And I think at that moment, he broke that vicious circle, which, propaganda sort of encouraged by, all those sort of stereotypical tropes about Black people in South Africa.
Mhm.
And obviously the whites thought they deserved to be up there because they are civilized, right? And so Nelson Mandela, with the Truth and Reconciliation a resolution, I would say, instead of saying we are going to be like the white supremacists who ruled over us, we are going to be different, and we are going to try to resolve all the pain and suffering that was put upon us through truth and reconciliation. And so when I was watching your film, it made me really think about the South African apartheid and the ending of that. And I think that that is a very powerful thing to say, because a lot of times when I think one of the arguments that people constantly saying why we can't throw down our arms is that if we throw down our arms, then what will happen is that our enemies will attack us. They will raise their arms and then they will kill us. And I think that I think that that argument is still out there. It's still out there right now in the world that we are living in presently, with the wars that are going on right now. And I feel that an example of no, not necessarily. People will not raise their arms if you free them, not necessarily. And I think South Africa's apartheid, the ending of apartheid, is a very good example of that. And your film most definitely made me thought about that. So I'm sorry I went on with that, but it's
No, 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 please, please.
I just wanted to emphasize how powerful your film is in terms of how it spoke to me in how to sort of try to make change in the world. And I think that your film successfully really does that. Okay, let's get to this. You said this. You said a considerable number of popular films became part of a cognitive strategy that have influenced contemporary culture and social consciousness.
Mhm, mhm.
So, what films are you talking about? What films come to mind that has done this?
Well, I was very, I was trying to be very, very careful as to not to point into any specific example, and my purpose on that was not because I just wanted to avoid something, but because simply because the film is not about specifics, and I try to make it as general as universal as possible. There was propaganda on every single country, on every single culture, on every single subgroup. Their propaganda is still there, and it's everywhere. And although this film that develops inside the cinema, it's not talking specifically about cinema or films. It's talking about generally the entertainment industry, and I hope I managed to communicate this somehow, because I know this happens in a cinema and with films, and but I try to make it as generic as possible. So. Pointing out a specific film or a specific number of films, I thought it would be, pointless, because it's not the specific the point. It's everywhere. It's even now it's happening. If you take a look at the wars that have happened recently are happening now. There's always propaganda in there, in the media, in the entertainment industry, in the news, and saying exactly what you were saying before, that we are here, we are the right ones, we are the good ones, and the guys we are attacking and we are killing are the bad guys, and they deserve it. We are
Yeah.
the victims, not them. So that's what they're saying. So I think it's pointless pointing out one specific, because it's not about one. It has happened everywhere, in Greece, everywhere, everywhere, and it keeps going. So I would like to avoid that in the film, although I showed some examples, but it wasn't film examples. It was, society examples, which are also generic. I spoke about there is one cat colonial administrator and one mice indigenous. So I didn't want to talk specifically about, for example, the English colonialism, because there was also French, there was also Portuguese, there was everywhere.
Mhm.
All Europe were colonial powers almost. So it would be pointless, pointing in one specific direction. And I try to do that also on my first film. I try to do, to create a set that that I didn't want to speak about a specific war because there's
Yeah.
been wars for thousands of years, and
Like basically war is a bad idea, and it's has happened all over the world. And I think like I will tell you, I think W, your first film, very powerful as well. Very, very powerful.
thank you, thank you so much.
Yeah, Stelios. Okay. I appreciate what you're saying for sure. I mean, I will say for me, one of the films that I thought about when you said that quote was The Deer Hunter. I remember watching that film, and it's like the Americans and the Vietnam War. And I remember I watched it when I was young, and I really thought, wow, it really, I think I was propagandized basically. I felt that the Vietnamese people are just scary, evil. Like I was a young kid, very impressionable mind, and I really seriously had a sense that um, Vietnamese people were dangerous. And it makes no sense whatsoever. I didn't know any Vietnamese people. I've never been to Vietnam, but I think that it really did speak about the power of cinema or media, of films when they place these images together to portray certain people a certain way, that it gives you these sorts of impressions. And thank goodness I'm out of that. I'm de-propagandized about that. Right? So that's great. So when you said that line, it made me very curious about what you were thinking about certain films. But I appreciate your answer for sure, because it is very universal. You can see examples of this all over the world. And I appreciate that for sure. Um,
Yeah, and I'd like to say, sorry,
yeah, no,
sorry,
go ahead.
interrupt. I'd like to say that, yeah, I had a very strong, influence from films that were made about the Vietnam War. When I was a kid, the films that I was watching from, American films that I was watching. When I was a kid, I had the impression that first of all, I had the impression that the Americans won the war. So, uh, yeah. I was a
Exactly.
kid, and I
Yeah.
was watching. I shouldn't watch anyway, but I was watching this kind of films. These action-packed films with shootings and things like that. And first of all, they were. How can I say this in English? They were. Making violence look cool. There was a guy. It's always a guy, that was the good guy, and they was shooting people like they were nothing, and that was the good. That was the good one. They
Yeah.
don't only. They didn't only, made violence look like nothing. They also, somehow neutralized it. They made it look normal, and against always people that they
Yeah.
made it look like they deserved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, Vietnam was definitely an influence of in my life and for making this film. Mm, and I just show it in the film as a generic, that there is a soldier and there is another soldier, and the cat is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
according to propaganda soldier.
It's very hard for me to believe that all any armies or any are doing good. Like it's because basically their job is killing people, and so I think we just have to stop. We just have to stop. There has to be other solutions than killing people, right? I think. Um, okay, I am wondering
Yeah.
what change would you what change are you hoping for after the audience has watched He?
Thank you for asking this question. Well, I am hoping for a change that not only will we will stop having war, but I'm hoping for a change that we will stop having inequality, inequality in any kind of gender inequality, racial inequality, the racist inequality, wealth inequality, any kind of inequality. and any kind of oppression. And I can only, I can only reach to a point that what I would like to see is an egalitarian society where everyone starts from the same, from the same base, and just trying to, every person, every family, everyone in a society will have the same base and try to, have a decent life without having someone on top of them, having their own decisions as society, immediate and rightful democracy. Yes, but immediate democracy that someone decides for their own, for the things that will in their everyday lives.
Right.
And that's the only way I believe that oppression and inequality will be stopped.
And I think that your film is basically trying to make us realize that we are propagandized, basically, and that perhaps we could reflect upon what images we are seeing in that is being placed in front of us, and to perhaps try to look closer and deeper behind why is this being presented to me? Is there another story? Because the world is quite complex. There's so many different people that live in the world with different thoughts and different experiences. And I think that your film, again, I think that does that. It certainly put that in front of me in terms of what I was trying to when I was trying to analyze the message or the theme that you were coming up with. So I thank you for that, Stelios. Thank you very much. Um,
Thank you so much.
yeah. So my take on W is that it's an anti-war film, right? P is an anti-propaganda film. So what's the next letter and theme you will be tackling in your trilogy?
Well, thank you so much. Well, I'm thinking the next one is I'm trying to make it to be about the environment. So it will be war, propaganda, and generally power, because it's power and propaganda, and the next one to be the environment, because we can't afford to lose our home, and we are reaching to a point where things are not going very well with the climate crisis, I would say.
And is it going to be live action, animation, or is it going to be a merge of the two? Ha!
Oh, that's a very good question. To be honest, I have no idea what it is going to be, but I'm quite sure it's not going to be an animation, because I want to contribute a little bit more on the film. Um, Sorry, and I also come from the live action film filming process. So yeah, well, if needed, like the previous one, if it needs to be an animation, it is going to be. I'm not
Yeah.
saying, but I would prefer being a live action, even if it's documentary. Um,
Yeah. So, Stelios, is there anything that we haven't covered in this interview that you would like to cover? Like to say your final words on this?
well, that's a good that's a good point. Well, I would love to say a lot of things, but at the end of the day, I'm not. I choose, doing films, or no, I'm not. I never introduced myself as a director. I consider myself as a sound designer, so I'm doing films that I try to speak about. My main issues. The things that I had always in mind. So I hope this film, and any other previous or next film will not will give all the messages I have I try to give. Um, so I would not be there to speak about the films. And this is the beautiful things about filmmaking and cinema and arts generally. It's a kind of language. That we are struggling. In other words, we would struggle to communicate the meanings we want to do so with through arts. Yeah, so I hope everyone enjoys, and you know,
It's a fabulous film. He's a fabulous film. W, you can catch W, I think I found it online. Fabulous film, very powerful. I can't wait to see the next letter. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure certainly will come up with one. There's like, I guess 27. No, how many letters in the alphabet? Oh, forget it. It's okay. Anyways,
no, no, no,
too much to ask.
I don't remember, but yeah,
Yeah, me neither. Anyways,
I
Stelios, it has been such an honor and such a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you so much for your insightful filmmaking style and thoughtfulness. Yeah, and I really am looking forward to the next film that you're going to make. I'm going to look out for it, whatever letter it is.
Link, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a great. It's an honor, and it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And really, I was really impressed. You knew everything about the film, and thank you so much for putting all this effort, and for giving filmmakers the microphone to speak about what we have in mind. Thank you so much. Such a
No,
great honor
it's
to be
it's
with
been
you.
absolutely a pleasure, and Stelios, well deserved for you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.